Well, hello there, lovely friends. I hope all is well with you. You have actually got a solo episode on Stories That Sell with me this week. And I will be completely honest, I had some guests lined up and they've had to reschedule, which is totally fine. But it means that you will get a solo episode with me rather than me leaving it a week because that's just not fair on you, right? So I thought I would just share some of my takeaways from the last few episodes of the amazing guests. If you've not gone back and listened to some of the episodes I've done over the last, since the end of April, I think, on Stories That Sell, go and have a listen because all of these business owners are absolute fonts of knowledge in their expert field, but they've also got some really incredible stories to sell. No, not to sell, but yes, to sell, but to tell because they are just amazing people. And I always get this a lot. Oh, I'm not really that interesting. I'm not really wanting to be on camera. I'm a bit boring. Anyone has ever said that to me, it's about as far as untrue as it gets. Everybody has that story to tell. And I want you to get from this podcast, that is why it's here, to show you there's always a story. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a huge, massive story that everybody goes, wow, they're incredible. They did this because nobody starts from that. And it's not always real. Your story has value to the people that want to buy from you. They want to see that, they want to hear that. And actually, sometimes the smaller stories, the small, as I call it, the small talk, have so much more power because you become so relatable and people want to know whether they connect with you or not. So absolutely go back, listen to some of these stories because you'll take something away from every episode. I promise you that. And I've just loved the conversations from Ben, who is an intuitive business strategist, but also a sidekick. So he's got really interesting stories to tell, to Daisy Ferns, who does leads, to Sandra Garlick, MBE, who started the Woman Who her Woman Who business, which turned into the awards from a broken leg. I mean, just I can't even begin to list all the stories because they've just been all absolutely amazing. And I've actually, if my dad is listening, because he does, I've actually told my dad to tune into every single episode so far because they have just blown me away of just the incredible people I've spoken to. So, and I have got more incredible guests coming up to you in the next few weeks, which will be learn so much from different areas, but it's going to help you in your businesses. But today, I haven't done myself an introduction because that would be quite frankly a little bit weird. But what I am going to do is talk to you about my Road to Joy plan. Because if you've not seen what I've been putting out there at the moment, and this is the first time you're hearing about this, I had it wasn't like a lightning bolt realization because that's not true. It was kind of a gradual accumulation of things, I think, which is how Emma described how she ended up with hers on the podcast last week. But it was actually after the conversation I had with Steph Ward on this podcast, where she was talking about she had 391 days to decide whether she's going to keep her business or not and find the joy back in it or find the purpose. And it made me kind of go, hang on a minute. Am I actually really enjoying what I'm doing? Don't get me wrong. I love this podcast. This is one of my favorite things to do, having these conversations. But I started looking at everything I was doing and I realized I just lost the ambition. I'd lost that drive. And I've always been driven. I've always been career focused. I've always wanted to learn better, do more, do something different. I'm not talking about climbing the ladder. And yes, I did that. But it's not that drove me. It was things that were making an impact. And I realized in quite a brutal way that I was just chasing money and trying to desperately chase money all the time. And money is not my motivator. It never has been. And financial circumstances changed in my own personal life where it became the focus and has been the focus for many, don't get me wrong, it's been the focus for many years. I had a cafe, bar and bakery during COVID and the cost of living crisis. You're pretty much looking at money all the time, which you should do in your business. But I realised that the purpose of my strategy and what I was trying to achieve and the goals I was setting myself were the wrong drivers for me to do what I want to do and how I want to do things in my way. And it came about how I ended up kind of creating the road to joy. And it is, look, I mean, for those watching on the actual YouTube here, I'm just showing you a photo. It is an actual strategy document, which I seem to have lost the other half. I'm going to find it. Here we go. But yes, I have actually written a whole strategy. This isn't, and I've given it a marketing name because let's face it, I'm a marketer and I need something catchy to make me interested. I love a strategy document. But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who is a specialist in human design. If you've not heard about human design, I started learning about this last year, and I'm not an expert by any means. I have got an understanding of what it is, but I realized that our bodies are built in a certain way, and how we work and how we approach life is genetically different for all of us. And when she looked at my human design chart, which you can get done online, and I'm not even going to try and do the justice of explaining what human design is because I'm not going to get it right by any means because it's not my area of expertise. I realized that I was working against my natural grain, if you like. Immediately she said, well, you take everything from within, not from outside. So why are you following what everyone else is telling you to do? And when I started to look back, I was like, why am I doing that? Because when I opened the cafe, bar, and bakery, and well, cafe and bar originally, I had a huge amount of drive. I mean, I needed money, I needed equipment, I needed kitchen, I needed staff, I needed apparently building control, which I didn't even know what building control was. I needed licenses, I needed the whole shebang. There wasn't anything other than I've got a vision for something. I'm going to turn it into a plan and I'm going to make this happen. That was it. I didn't have the knowledge. I had never done that before. I hadn't run a business. I hadn't owned a hospitality business. I'd worked the bar for 6 months while I wasn't even in college. I think it was after college. I was working 2 jobs at the time to earn a bit of extra money down my local. That was it. But there was nothing going to stop me from opening that business and getting it off the ground. And that was the drive I was missing from what I was doing now. And when I started to look at that, I realized that actually I've been trying to follow what so many other people are saying because closing that business knocked my confidence so much that I didn't trust my own judgment anymore. I just didn't believe in what I could do. And I needed that validation externally, or I thought I did. And then when I was going through my human design and we're talking through stuff, I'm like, no wonder none of this has felt right. And no wonder I've just been kind of treading water, just trying to make the money because I'm aiming at the wrong thing. The business is unaligned. And I had to start peeling back the onion. And actually, as I was doing that, it was on a very long train journey down to Bournemouth for a recce for business by the beach with Sophie Foot, which is at the end of July. We were doing a venue check, having lunch. It was lush. But I love a good train journey for doing stuff like this. And that's exactly what I did. I spent that time going, okay, rip your rule book up. What is it that you actually want to do? Do you still want to do this for one? And I thought, I'm not sure if I do. And I'm being totally bluntly honest with you because I'm not enjoying it. But I'm not about to jump ship or pivot or do any of those things right now because I need to know for sure that's right. But what I do know is the people I love working with and the stuff I love doing is helping people take a bold vision and make an impact, leaving a world to be a better place. That's always been my mission through life. I know that sounds rather grand. And I was kind of thinking, well, I've said for the last 3 years, I just do marketing, just do marketing. I never just done marketing. I know that sounds bizarre, but I've worked in a lot of nonprofit and charity spaces. I've worked in the arts for many, many years, and they've all been organizations, charities, or businesses that want to have an impact, that have an effect on other people's lives, that are there for enrichment to make our world a better place for the next generation, right? Even when I was working in large scale marketing campaigns, it was changing laws and government. to make it a better place for future generations. Everything, that theme has been running through everything I do. And the businesses that I want to support doing what I do are the ones doing that, are the ones who have a bold vision that don't just want someone to do their socials. I will do that, don't get me wrong, but I am not your right fit if that's all you want. What I want to do is help create marketing campaigns and help events that are going to push the boundaries of what we do, going to challenge people's thoughts and take those leaders that had that bold vision and support them doing that work so we have a better vision for the future. That was what I realized that my purpose was missing. Now you might think, well, why did you start a cafe then? Because it was never about the cafe and selling coffee. It was about how people would feel being in that space. It was about what they would experience. And for me, that was so unbelievably important. It wasn't, the coffee had to be good because that was part of the experience. But I wanted to create a place where people didn't feel alone. That was the whole vibe. It was based around my nana's values, which was there's always a solution. There was never a problem, there's always a solution. We wanted it to be inclusive. I wanted to be welcoming, whether you're in with your family or on your own. And I realized on the first anniversary of that cafe and bar, of my cafe and bar, um, that's exactly what I achieved because one of my customers had come in. And this is probably one of my actual proudest moments from the whole experience of owning that video. They came in and said to me on that first birthday, "You have no idea what you've done to me. This place has been my lifesaver. I don't know where I'd been without it." Because he'd lost his wife a month before it opened really suddenly. And it gave him a reason to get up every day. It gave him a place to walk to every day. It gave him somewhere to go, have a coffee, maybe sometimes have scrambled eggs, but generally have a purpose and have people to talk to that were willing to listen. And that made him feel like they're part of the family. And that was what it created. And that sounds daft, but that was the vision for my business. And I created that deliberately. And I haven't done that so much in my current business. I didn't have that kind of really core, this is what it needs to do. And when I took a step back and realized what really makes a difference, it's the reasons why I work behind the scenes at the Big Festoon, because I truly believe in what they're trying to create there and making this space more inclusive and all of those things that it's actually trying to do. And that's exactly why I needed to rewrite my strategy to focus on that. So my values, my mission, my vision have all changed. It's a proper strategy document. It's not just a funsies kind of 6-month plan. I have very specific goals. Some of them are financial. I cannot ignore that. If I want a business to work, it has to bring in the right amount of money for what I'm looking for, but it's not my main driver. So my values are around creativity, leadership, bold thinking, community, and impact. They are now my core values, which were very similar to what they were before, but they're much more aligned as to how I can help people. And I've never been friend chasing. I know there's lots of AI and algorithm talk and all of that kind of thing. And yes, I know a lot about that. I'm not going to lie that I don't know stuff because I do. I've been doing this a long time and I'm interested. But I don't approach marketing like that. I look at who the audience is and what's going to be right. That's how I approach things. I might think outside the box a bit. I might look at, well, how can we make that impact really, really special? What can we do to really level up, amplify, make this better? Where are the connections? It's not about doing the same old, you've got to send out an email, you've got to do your sales funnels, you've got to do your social media, you've got to do your website. I don't say any of that. I look at the audience and work backwards. And that is what I'm really good at. And I forgot that for a while. So that's how I've ended up with the Road to Joy. And I've got very clear goals. Like I said, one's around financials, it's got to be. One's around visibility. One's around my own positioning. So people are super clear on whether I'm the right fit for them. Because you've all worked with people that aren't the right fit. And I've had that this year. And it was a horrible experience for both me and for them. It doesn't happen to me very often. I'm very glad of that. But it knocked me, and I'm like, I can't do this. Um, I've got another goal around community and networking, and I've got, believe it or not, my CEO goal, which I've never done in a strategy before. But over my whole entire journey of owning businesses, I realized that my biggest thing that's holding me back is myself all the time. I am always going to be the one that's tripping myself up. I need to regain that confidence. I need to regain that enjoyment. And actually, I need to do that. I don't want to say inner work. You get what I mean. So I am looking at how I can work with my human design, how I am built. How do I use my strengths to their advantage? How do I make my relationship with money and success? How do I improve that? Because I've clearly got issues around that one. And strengthening my boundaries. I'm not talking about time boundaries. Let me just be really clear about this because I love working. I always have done. I am not afraid to work long hours. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but when you love something, you don't want to put it down. And that's exactly the feeling I want back. Doesn't mean I won't. And I'll find the balance in that. But my boundaries are around what I will and won't do. And I'm being really super clear on that. So that is a really key thing for me. So that was just a little insight into my road to joy. I hope you found that really helpful. And I would invite you to look at your business and take the time to think about, do you feel like you're really enjoying what you're doing? Because if you're not, it's in your power to make that change, hard as it is. But sometimes we just have to set those tangible goals. And I highly actually also recommend you listen to Emma Hines' episode that was last week, because she has built business. She has been through this whole thing. We've had very similar journeys, but she has also done the same thing. And her insight is really, really valuable and helpful. So there we are. I should be back next week with another guest. So you won't have me just solo. So I hope it's been useful for you, and I will see you on the next episode.